Hi everybody, Mars here, the teaching professional at Southwick Park Golf Club. I'm out here on a beautiful late autumn, early winter's day, but the weather has been terrible. If you've been at Southwick for a little while, you'll know that we've had horrific rain. I think it's something like 6 inches of rain in October, which has left the course surprisingly good. Not so long ago the stream broke its banks, but that's out of our control, so credit to Jim and his team and the drainage he's done that we're still playing. So I'm going to give you some winter golf tips, and there'll be a few things in here that you probably haven't thought of doing, and there's probably loads of things you're already doing, and because some of it is just common sense, but there's definitely some technique around chipping and bunkers and other things. But let's just talk about your set for a start. So if you can, you've got to try and carry through the winter. If you can, it spreads the wear hugely. I would look at having a trolley as a privilege, really, especially as if we always have to be shepherded round the same way off of a green and onto a tee normally with a trolley. So that creates those wear areas. If you're carrying your bag, at least we can spread that a little bit. Onto your set. Now, I've just swapped a couple of clubs out because I'm not going to need many long irons, so stuck the 7 woods definitely staying in, 4 irons come out, left me space to actually, I've added another wedge funnily enough, because I think you should always have 14 clubs if you can manage it, so I can manage my bag all right. If you can't, slim your set right down. You don't necessarily need all these clubs, you don't need all these long irons, so slim your set down. The amount of times I pick someone's bag, I think, God, that's heavy, and they've got about 30 golf balls in there. So strip it down, make it as light as you can, only take the umbrella if you need it, all those sort of things. So definitely try and carry if you can. I think it really does help the course genuinely. So that's that. So let's move on, and let me just give you a bit of technique around, oh yeah, the other thing before I move on, the driver for me at Southwick in the summer when it's hard and fast probably comes out 3 times max. Now it's definitely going to come out a lot more, maybe at least 8 times, I think, something like that. You can lob it down the fairway now and not be worried about it running out to a difficult area like it can in Southwick sometimes, because, you know, in the summer you have to hit a spot in a fairway to give yourself position onto the next hole. So that drive's going to come out, I think, 8 or 9 times for me now. So it totally changes winter golf, which is great. It's almost like playing 2 courses, isn't it? So that's fantastic. So let me give you a little bit of advice about playing iron shots from these wetter, heavier lies. Okay, just quickly before we actually get onto the iron technique, let's take a full advantage of winter rule: lift, clean and place. So for all of you, very few of you I imagine, that don't understand winter rule, mark it, lift it, clean it and place it. Always clean it, by the way. A tiny bit of mud on your ball will act like a little bias, like you would have on a bowls ball. So lift, clean and place. Here's my thing, I always place it very gently because I want it to sit nicely up on top of the turf. So that's lift, clean and place for any of you that don't understand that. Do it. Okay, iron shots in the winter can be very difficult, and for the obvious reason, the ground's very soft, and if you hit slightly too far behind the ball, you're going to hit a lot of fat shots, which is really quite a depressing shot in golf, you know. Yeah, so you lose a load of distance. So I look at it in a couple of ways. It's a little bit like, it's probably hard to explain unless you've done it, you understand the principle, but I look at it a little bit like a fairway bunker shot. You're gonna have to pick it a bit cleaner, still want a little bit of divot. That divot has to be beyond the ball. So in terms of like how you would play a fairway bunker shot, you do a couple of things. You'd come down the handle a tiny bit. Your feet are sinking down into the ground. I know it's all very small stuff, but we are talking about millimeters and degrees. And the other thing is that maybe if it was a really heavy lie, I'm looking at, in the summer, I'd be looking into the back of the ball to try and get that nice downward crunchy contact and get some spin on it. I don't have to worry about the spin so much anymore. I need the clean hit and the carry. So I look more at the front of the ball. You'll have to do it to see if it really works for you. But I look at the front of the ball now instead of the back because I want to flush it a little bit. The other thing I don't do as much, and that I'd probably be teaching you to do in the summer, is this little bit of compression as you push down into this left foot. Try and neutralise yourself. Try and stay a bit more stiller here in your sternum. Take a little bit more club and don't hit it so full. You know, try and see if you can stay in a little bit more control of it. So down the handle a tiny bit, try and hold your position here, a little bit less club, so we'll make more of a 3/4 tight swing, and just see if we can flush it off the top of the ground. So that's iron shots. Still took a divot. That divot is nicely beyond the ball. That was an all right little shot. Yeah, iron shots from the fairway are always going to be difficult. They're going to probably be your greatest challenge around winter golf. Let's move on for a bit of chipping. Now, chipping is where we definitely need a slight change in winter golf technique. So I'm here short of 13. Really wet down here, squelchy. It's really squelchy. So in the summer, 100%, from this shot, I'm going to take 8, 9, 52, bump and run it a bit, land it on the edge of the green and run it out. I need to pitch it much further up the green now. So start practicing your chipping with more lofted clubs. You want that because I want to throw it much further up to the hole, as simple as that. I'm not going to get much run out. I can't really even tell how wet this particular green is. Only local knowledge will give you a feel of how wet each individual green gets. So 13's a bit of a saucer, so it's probably one of the drier greens, so you've got a little bit to work with. But yes, I'm going to go to my 54 for a majority of these shots. And I want to play it in a slightly different way. So my chipping technique for you a lot of the time would be early wrist hinge, creating a good steep angle of attack. So this is the bit I want to change, and I sort of call it dead arm chipping, right? It's a bit how I would describe it, but I'm going to chip much more with these sort of dead arms, a much more sweeping shot. I don't want too much compression down, because if I just get it a tiny bit fat, it'll be a terrible shot. So this chipping technique is similar, like you know, a little bit open with my feet, ball position center. And I'll always try and teach people equidistant swings. So however long you feel that shot is, if I'm going back to here, I'll be going through to the same point. It stops you decelerating on it, which is something obviously we must not do with chipping. So in this sort of more dead arm technique, my arms will be much straighter. I've still got a little bit of weight on my left foot. It's a bit more clicky and a bit more nipped off the top of the surface, and that's quite a nice little shot, you'll have to believe me. Hardly bruised the grass there. So that's something to work on. Less of this. Can't have any digging action with this wet ground. If you do, you're going to have to be millimetre perfect all the time. So straighter arms, a little bit more sweeping, just skimming the top. This is where you're going to slightly use the bounce of your club, that radius part of your sole of your sand iron, to not dig in, which is slightly different now in a bunker. So let's go into a wet bunker. Definitely on the tricky stuff now with winter bunkers. Quite nice for a fairway bunker, because you can get it's almost like hitting it off of firm ground, because a few days of really heavy rain, everything's really compacted. Greenkeepers haven't had a chance to get around every one of these bunkers with all the other jobs they've got to do, so we've got to deal with it. And it's a little bit like all these shots. We don't want too steep an angle of attack. You need to understand how the bounce of your sand iron works. We're going to use that a little bit, because we don't want anything digging in too tightly. So practice. You've got to practice this. Don't expect to jump in here and be good at it. You have to understand height of head. You can understand how your bounce is going to work, and we're not going to dig in too much. We're going to skip through it, staying quite shallow, but the initial contact is going to be the key. You're going to have to be really, really careful how close or how far behind you hit the ball. So you will have to come and practice these shots. It's going to be a little bit less and a little bit less power output. In fluffy sand, there's going to be a bit more explosion here. You are going to have to understand how to use soft hands and just let that club try and glide through a little bit and nip it off the top a little bit cleaner. So you'll have to come in and practice. My advice is to come up and jump in a bunker and have a little bit of practice every now and then, because you won't understand how to play it when you get into a little bit of a pressure situation. So a little bit open, go square with your face. You don't need to open the face so much, and use that bounce, which is, you're going to have to try and feel that release and use of the bounce. It's not easy, takes a lot of practice. And final bit of advice, like always when you get in a bunker, have a little feel with your feet. What does that feel like? How deep's the sand? How hard it is? That's your only little bit of feedback you're going to get, is from your feet to what lies beneath this sand. So yeah, what you can find sometimes on a dry day like this is the top actually can dry out because it's sand, and actually it's a little bit fluffier than it looks as you look at it, but your feet will give you that little feeling. So that's bunkers. Let's have a quick chat about putting. Okay, winter putting obviously is much more about pace than line. You're not going to take the borrow anywhere like you would on a super slick green, so you need pace control really, and that's always going to be difficult because you're going to have to hit it harder. So one thing that I've done and I've done it all my life, and I've probably overdone it to death, but that's a slight addiction of mine, I think. There's a thing in golf called lead tape, and basically a club comes at a swing weight. Let's say this club came at a swing weight of D0, and I've picked it up and I like it, but it's not heavy enough. Extra incremental layers of lead tape will bring that up to D2, whatever it might be, that I feel that's nice. Now that's something I will do always to my putter in the winter. I haven't done it to this putter yet, but I probably will do it today, and add some lead tape into the back of it till the head feels heavier. There's got a bit more meat behind it, so if you've got a very light bladed putter, it's not going to be a great winter putter. You're probably better off with a heavier mallet. So you can always consider, if you don't want to buy another putter, is to reweight that blade. Something you can buy lead tape, something I can buy for you. It's not a thing that normally club golfers use, but it's a little bit of a hack for me, and I've always got some lead tape. So yeah, lead tape putting. It seems obvious you're going to have to hit things harder and firmer, but concentrate on when you go onto the putting green, about line, and don't worry so much about the borrow. Yeah, so let's move on. So thanks for watching this little winter golf video. Hope you might have all picked up something there that you may not have thought about or considered. It's so nice. I'm going to go and play a couple of holes. So our little recap really is carry if you can, because that's really going to help the course. Obviously now you need to look after your divots and pitch marks even more, because they're much harder to recover in the winter with not so much grass growth. Practice on the range. See if you can get on that grass range and flush a few shots without taking such a big divot. Now I'm always on at you to take divots in the summer, but now we're going to slightly reduce that a little bit and hit them nice and smoothly. And remember, it's winter. Tee it high, let it fly. Always nice to be able to get the driver out now a little bit more than we used to. Oh, it's nice to be able to give a driver a smack too. See you all next week.